Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining for our uh, webinar today. And our webinar is going to be about talent ID and development database for swimming, which we developed for US athletes, but now many countries already using this talent ID and development. So before beginning of presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Genadijus Sokolovas, or everyone calls me Dr. G at US Olympic Training Center, as well as working with World Aquatics at many different international events. And recently we started to work with PanAm Aquatics also. So some of you probably met me at different coaches clinics or competitions, and or listened my presentations online. And welcome to the next presentation. And I'm happy to share what we're doing and how we are developing this talent ID database. So let's start the presentation. So you see some links over here to our websites. If somebody is interested, you can look at that, globsport.org or talentidd.org, which stays for the talent ID and development. If you have any questions, there are also emails which you can email me as well. So we worked already with almost 150 Olympic champions. Many tests doing physiological tests as well as biomechanical tests and analyzing swimming technique, developing learn to swim programs, and many other projects, including training equipment. I will not go through the details of that, but you can find on our websites as well. And you can register for talent ID and development database also online. And we'll review that with you in the next 75 minutes or so. So let's start about talking about talent and performances. There are several talent ID models, I would say, which different countries are using in the world. And these models are primarily based on athletic performances. And what results are at young age, when the athlete is improving, what results are, how fast they're improving, girls, boys, sprinters, distance swimmers. So there are a lot of different models created. But as our studies show that performances or results on in different swimming events are not reliable predictor of future success. In fact, it's opposite. In swimming, based on our studies, up to 90% of athletes with fast times at young age never reach elite, never reach elite level results. And that's sad when we see young athletes swimming really fast at age 10, 11, 12, and they disappear. They are not reaching the results because it's just not correct their development. And we have many examples of this type of athletes in the United States when they're so fast, parents happy, swimmers happy, coaches happy, but they never developed into elite level athletes because they stop performing well, they don't improve later on, and at age 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, they stop training because they don't see the results. Other athletes who didn't perform well at young age, they outperformed them. So and that's a problem that we have, and I'm sure in your countries is the same thing as well. So let's look what happens in fact. So these are women. How many women, fast, younger age group women are competing and are in top 100 at age 17, 18? If you are 10 and under, if your swimmers are at age 10 and under, and only 10% of these champions at young age, they still good at age 17, 18. You see, 90% of swimmers disappear. They don't swim fast at older age if they are champions at age 10 and under. That's why we don't want young champions. We want to develop them differently. And we'll go through that with you later today. So same with other age groups. 11, 12, we're losing 80% of young champions. 13, 14, we're losing 64% or so of young champions, basically 2/3 at age 15, 16. That's only 2 years difference between age 17 and 18. We're losing still 50% of young champions who are swimming really fast at age 15, 16. So that's why, again, very questionable. I mean, not questionable, but definitely we don't need young champions. It's good to have competitions, but we don't need to focus on performance at this age. They probably need to develop good technique, good aerobic conditioning at younger age, and only later start focusing on the performances. Same with the men, very similar data. You see, 87% we lost at age 10, 11, 88% at age 13, 14, 69% at age 13, 14, and also about 50% at age 15, 16. Very similar tendency. And that's why we need to rethink all entire long-term training. And Talent ID and development database designed specifically for that, to understand how athletes are developing. By the way, I didn't mention at the beginning, and Chris asked me to do that for participants. You can ask questions in the question box. There is a question box, so send your questions if you have any, and at the end of my presentation, I will try to answer your questions. So let's talk again about specialization or diversification. What's better? An athlete specializing in one event or not specializing in one swimming event and doing multiple events. What's better? Definitely is better diversification when athletes specializing in multiple swimming events, multiple swim strokes at young age. For example, has been study done with USA Swimming, and swimmers who specialized early like at age 12 or younger, they spent less time on national team and Olympic team than swimmers who specialize later at age 16 or later. That tells you that try to develop your swimmers with multiple strokes swimming, multiple distances. I remember when I worked with Michael Phelps, so he was swimming, even being already world champion, he was swimming at the competitions in the United States, even 1,500 meters distance. He's definitely not distance swimmer, but coach was asking him to swim longer distances intentionally, and that helped him to stay in the career and still win gold medals, 4 gold medals at Rio Olympics at age 31. So, and many young swimmers who specializing, they're still very talented. They swim fast. They even making U.S. national team or Olympic team, but they disappear later. They don't stay long in the career. So swimmers who specializing earlier also retiring from sport earlier. Okay, so besides that, specialization often leads to injuries, and your athletes may be injured because they're just doing too much, especially sprint work. I can see specialization in longer distances. That's probably okay, but 99.9% probably specialization happens in shorter distances. They're just sprinting in practices. And that doesn't develop good technique, doesn't develop good aerobic conditioning, which is important for recovery. And as a result, we are losing talented swimmers. So next one, when specialization should happen? At what age athletes are competing well? We call it peak performance age. And here you see freestyle for men and women over 50 meters and 100 meters. Their specialization, peak performance age, very similar. This is for elite level swimmers, top 10 elite level swimmers in the world. So it's 24, 25 years. That's where sprinters need to excel, because that's then fully matured. They have a lot of power at that time, developing power, but before that, they should develop good endurance. And we see that if athletes are reaching good results at age 14, 15, or even younger, breaking the records, everyone's so happy, but athletes don't swim fast. And one of example we'll be analyzing also today a little bit more, that example of Michael Andrew, who's an amazing swimmer. He has amazing physical properties, but his performance is already stopped. He's not improving anymore for the last few years. And so even he is still American record holder in 100 breaststroke, but he broke so many age group records, starting probably at age 12 or so, and then his performances stopped. He could be really, really super fast in multiple events, but because of sprinting a lot in practices, didn't develop long-term well. As a result, he didn't reach this good results. So over 200 freestyle, as you see, swimmers are younger. Elite level swimmers in top 10 in the world, they're younger, age 22.6 men and 20.8 women. And the longer distance, the younger swimmers are. Because in swimming, you are better in longer distances at younger age. It's different than other sports. For example, in running, distance runners are older than sprinters. So, and the reason for that probably is flexibility and buoyancy as well. Younger athletes are more flexible. They have better efficiency in the stroke. That's why they can improve, reach better, higher performances in longer distances at earlier age than sprinters. So what age of peak performance is in other swimming events? Same tendency, shorter distances, sprinters, and in fact, women are reaching peak performance age earlier than men. As you see, 100 backstroke, men 23.9, women 21.9 age of peak performances. 200 backstroke, they're a little bit younger, 23.1 and 20.8. Similar tendencies in 100 breaststroke and 200 breaststroke as well. The longer event, the younger swimmers, and females tend to be younger than male athletes as well. So same in butterfly as well. 100 butterfly, same like 100 freestyle, 24, 25 years old when athletes reaching their peak performance age. 200 butterfly, slightly younger, and same for the 200 and 400 IM, same tendency as well. Younger athletes are swimming older distances, and females are younger than males for the age of peak performances. So let's analyze how athletes are improving in their performances. As example here is Caleb Dressel, improving performances, who still holds world record over 100 butterfly, and one of the best sprinter obviously in the world, especially a few years ago when he broke several world records as well. So this are his performances over 50 freestyle. As you see, at young age, at age 11, he was doing pretty good, 27.09, and then performances increased very fast until age 16, when he did 22.22 seconds. And then it slowed down already after that. So he still improved and still won world championship multiple times. Very close to the world record, 21.04, his best time. So this is normally a normal curve, as you see, a little bit faster improvements at younger age, slower at the end. And his results at age 11 reached 77.7% from best time at age 22, when he did 21.04. So this is typical curve, how athletes are improving. They're improving faster at younger age and slowing down when they are already older. If you look Caleb Dressel, 100 freestyle results, very similar tendency, also results improving linearly almost at age 16, very fast improving. At age 16, he did already 48.97, maybe even too fast at this age. We don't want specialization at younger age, too young age. And then the results slow down. He still reached a result very close to the world record, 46.96, again at age 22. And ratio or percentage of age 11 result has been 78.6 relative to the best time in his career, which happened at age 22. Katie Ledecky, a famous swimmer, multiple gold medalist for many Olympic Games since 2012. So she swam 400 freestyle 450.8, which is 81.3%. As you see, girls are swimming slightly faster relative to boys at younger age. And in this case, 81% obviously is faster than 77 or 78% that was for Caleb Dressel at age 11. And again, she swam really fast, reached best results at age 19, 356.46. At that time was world record. That was Rio Olympics. And then her times didn't change or slow down even a little bit. But she still maintains her good results very well, especially in the longer distances. So this is 800 freestyle. See, age 11, time is 10 minutes, 20 seconds. That was slightly slower, relatively 78.1% than 400. Most likely longer distances, younger swimmers still not focusing as much because they don't have such a good technique, probably not, definitely not as good endurance. So that's why they improving. They not as fast at age 11, but then they improving relatively fast. And you see, same happened here. Katie Ledecky at age 15 won gold medal in London Olympics in 2012 with the time age 8:14.6, and she reached best result world record again at Rio Olympics in 2016, 8:04.79. And then again, times didn't improve as much, but she still wins medals and gold medals also at the Olympics when she races 800 and 1500 longer distances, even with slightly slower times than she was before, because she was so far ahead of other swimmers. So based on this performance progression, we analyzed hundreds of elite level swimmers' performance progression. We developed the models when to reach the best results, okay, how performances should progress from age 11 or even from age 10 to the age of peak performances. So there is a window. Okay? So this window is large, relatively large at age 11. So it's about 73 to 80% from elite level performances. And we have wide window at age 11, and then narrows window when athletes are improving. And as you can see, if athletes are inside this window, they have good chance to be at elite level. They don't need to be too fast at young age. They don't need to be too slow. They need to stay inside this window and gradually improve through long-term training. And this is, part of our talent ID of performance progression. And we'll see also examples with you in the database once I'll finish this theoretical part. So this is example how elite level sprinters, male sprinters, should progress from age 11 or even 10, as I told. There are models for us in the database until age of peak performances at age 24.5. That's age of peak performances for 100 freestylers, male swimmers. And in this case, in the database, we put world record over here, which is currently 46.4. As you know, swimmer from China broke world record at Paris Olympic Games. Again, you can plot in the database your swimmers' times over here, and you'll see where are they at different age, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, and so on, and what performances they're going to reach. Obviously, probably very few swimmers in the world will be swimming 46 seconds, but you can put any goal you want. You can put, I want my swimmer at age 18 or 20, let's say, to swim 48 seconds or 47 seconds, okay? Or maybe 49, 50, whatever you want. What's your goal in long-term training? And then software will create your path for your swimmers, how they need to improve, okay? So this are also results, example, also from database, screenshot from database. You see how performances should improve from age 11 to age of peak performances, in this case, world record in this model. Okay. So let's talk about another feature in the Talent ID database. It's called relative endurance, or as simple as ratio between times. And you probably already heard that from my presentations or my articles. which you can find online as well. So I'll just briefly explain you, and then we'll look at the database as well, how that works and what benefits coaches can get. So ratio between times provide valuable information regarding an athlete's distance orientation or conditioning to identify talent for specific events. For example, many coaches, especially when swimmers younger, many coaches are asking question, should we focus more on distance events or sprint? Relative endurance can answer this question for you, but also it can tell you what kind of training you need to do based on that. Because relative endurance or ratio between times is optimal for various events. Sprinters have higher ratio between times because they're not maintaining speed so well from shorter to longer distance. And distance swimmers have a smaller ratio between times. Let's look at that first with examples from elite level swimmers. Okay, so we have elite level swimmers over here, and the ratio between times for between 150 for 50-meter sprinters, best in the world sprinters, ratio is 2.267. Okay, the longer event swimmers are swimming, the lower ratio, because they're less sprint oriented, more middle distance or distance oriented. And that's why their endurance is better if you're swimming longer distance, obviously. That's why ratio between times is smaller. Like 100 swimmers who are specialized in over 100, their ratio is 2.191. See, already significantly smaller than 226. And we can use these ratios, examples of elite level swimmers, for training our athletes and answer the questions. For example, if my ratio is too high, probably I need to improve my endurance more. Or if my ratio is too low, I have a lot of endurance, I need to improve speed and power. And to compare in Talent ID database, you have examples of ratios in all events for all swimmers, females, males, ratios between times on various distances. Even yards are there, which is not probably important for many coaches in Latin America or other countries outside United States, but in United States, coaches are using this information as well. So then next one, let's compare swimmers who specialize in over 100 and 200 events. Ratio like 200 to 100. This ratio for sprinters, for 100 sprinters, is 221.7. But if you look 200 swimmers, ratio 216.7. So which means that, again, 200 swimmers have better endurance than 100 swimmers. Same 200 and 400 swimmers. Ratio between 400 and 200 is 212.6 for the 200 swimmers. And for the 400 swimmers, the same ratio is 2091. Again, you see, the longer distance, the better endurance swimmers have. They have lower ratio. Their ability to maintain speed from shorter to longer distance is better when the ratio is lower. Same to compare other ratio, 1500 to 400. You see, for 400 swimmers is 3.962. For 1500 swimmers is 3.903. Again, ratio gradually decreases with longer events. And we again can use these ratios to understand what is physiology and what is training done for our swimmers. And then software even generates, online software that we have even generates recommendations, what kind of training you need to do based on that. So for females, it's the same tendency. The longer event female swimmers are swimming, the lower is ratio between times. But female ratios are slightly lower in general than male ratios, male swimmers ratios. And that's because females are not as powerful. They have better endurance in general. So that's why they have better ability to maintain speed from shorter to longer distance. And as a result, their ratios are slightly lower across the board if you compare with swimmers, with male swimmers. For example, 50 ratio, as I told, for male swimmers was 2.267. For female swimmers, best swimmers in the world for 50 sprinters, ratio is 2.214. Okay, that's a ratio between 100 and 50. And same tendency as you see here. I probably will not stop too long because I want to cover more information. It shows you examples from database as well. So talent development database, or talent idea and development database, allows us to analyze and see what happens, what kind of training you're doing, and how to change your training in order to be optimal for athletes. Okay. And as I told, if your ratio between times is too high and you're entering the results, software will calculate the ratio, compare with elite level swimmers, and give you a recommendation for your swimmers what kind of training you need to do in order to keep optimal ratio instead of keeping ratio too high or too low. And the ratios between times, keep in mind, they are also changing a little bit with development. Ideally, we want to see younger swimmers have a little bit lower ratios than elite level swimmers. So that will help maintain better endurance at young age. And we'll talk about that a little bit later today. So this is example for Caleb Dressel, Michael Andrew, and Simon Mallow. Caleb Dressel, as you know, and Manel are Olympic champions over 50 and 100 meters. Michael Andrew was the best at young age. Once he is adult, he is not the best in the world anymore. And as I told, that's probably led, not probably, but for sure led because of his training was not as aerobically based as Caleb Dressel or Simon Manuel. And if you look right here at ratios between times, for Caleb Dressel at younger age, he had a ratio at age 11, 200 and 100, 2.21 ratio, and Michael Andrew, 2.26. And Michael Andrew even increased ratio with sprint training. At age 14, 200 and 100 ratio was 2.34 even. He still was okay, 150 ratio, but even that was higher than Caleb Dressel or Simon Manuel, because he didn't have good ability to maintain speed. Training was just sprint. And looking at these ratios, you can see exactly what kind of training swimmers are doing. If swimmers have lower ratios, they are performing, they training more aerobically. Swimmers have higher ratios, they're training more anaerobically. That's why ideally at younger age, your swimmers' ratio should be lower than elite level swimmers. And then gradually ratios can increase and should reach elite level swimmers ratios probably at the end of puberty at age 16, 17, 18 years old. Katie Ledecky ratios between times. As you see, she won gold medals and broke world records with low ratios between times. At younger age, was a little bit too high ratios, especially 800 to 400 ratios, because she probably didn't focus too much on 800 race at that time. But at age 15, she had very low ratios, 206, 400 and 200 ratio, and 202, 800 to 400 ratio. And then she reached optimal ratios for these events, which are 207, 2.07, and 2.05 at age 19 when she broke world records at 2016 Olympic Games. So, and then she maintained similar ratios later on. She just swimming a little bit slower than 2016, but still that enough for her to win gold medals at the in most recent Olympic Games in Tokyo and Paris as well. So obviously there is also when athletes are in training, there is so-called biological maturation or puberty happens. And puberty is an interesting thing because we can see athletes sometimes performing really well because they are earlier matured. They're maturing early, they become stronger, and they improving faster. Their times are faster as well. And based on the studies, we see that puberty may start up to 3 years earlier in some swimmers. And so that means the other swimmers are in disadvantage. If there are late matured swimmers, for them will be very hard to catch up at puberty or at young age against their peers who are early matured. But that's not a big deal. It should not distract swimmers and coaches from training that, oh, I'm not going to reach good results. No, you're going to reach good results because finally your puberty will come and you'll improve much more. You'll be stronger, bigger, better endurance, better strength, and you'll be swimming faster as well. In fact, some research shows that swimmers who are late matured, they're developing better technique and they're reaching better performances when they adults relative to the athletes who are early matured. So that's also you need to keep in mind. And just continue normal training, even being later matured. Don't be discouraged. Swimmers should understand, and coaches and parents as well. Coaches should explain to parents, you are now late matured. That's why your performances are not as good, and you will be faster as long as you stay in training, work on technique, work on aerobic conditioning, especially. That's important at younger age. You'll be improving faster as well. So, and in Talent ID, we also analyzing puberty, and we develop models how much athletes should train at every age in order to reach elite level performances. And this model is based on biological maturation. We know that there are so-called sensitive periods of development. And these sensitive periods of development are different for different physical qualities. For example, aerobic development happens earlier at age 11 for girl stars and about age 12 for boys, even younger for girls, around 10.5, which means we need to start developing good aerobic conditioning at the beginning of sensitive period of aerobic development. And that's, as I told, for girls starts at age 10.5 and for boys around 12. Statistically, girls are biologically older or start puberty earlier than boys at about 1.5 years earlier than boys. So, and that's why training for girls should be different. They cannot train with boys. They should train more at the same age because they're biologically older. And that's what we're taking into account in our models for long-term development. And every physical quality has different sensitive period of development. For example, if you look at anaerobic development, it should happen a little bit later, about 1.5, 2 years later than aerobic development. Sprint power should be developed well during the sensitive period for sprint and power, which is about 2.5, 3 years or later than aerobic conditioning. So that's why everything is shifted a little bit. The high intensity training should happen later in long-term development than lower intensity training, which is aerobic development. And if you look at height changes, so height change is a great parameter that you can track and see what is biological maturation. And in fact, we have height change calculator in also Talent ID and development database, which allows to look at puberty and detect exactly what phase of puberty swimmers are. So girls, as I told, they're growing earlier. You see, at age 12, they're already growing, they're reaching peak height velocity when height improves, when height changes the most. So up to 9 centimeters a year. And boys are reaching peak height velocity about 10, 11 centimeters a year at age 14. That's almost that's exactly 2 years difference. That's one of the study was done in long-term development and with swimmers. And you can see there is a big difference. That's why if you have 12 years old girls, that's basically matching with 14 years old boys. Their training should be similar. And if you train girls and boys together at the same age, girls will be in disadvantage because they don't receive right training. And what kind of training is, we can look at that a little bit later. And by the way, height changes, this peak height velocity or middle phase of the puberty is a good predictor of sensitive period of aerobic development. They're basically matching together. That's why if you measuring height of your swimmers, I would suggest every 3 to 6 months to measure height and see where they're growing the fastest. Then they need to start improving aerobic conditioning. In fact, once they start growing faster, not the fastest, but faster, they already need to start build aerobic conditioning and increase aerobic volumes in training at that age. For example, if you see here, at age 10 and a half, girls start growing faster. Boys start growing faster at age 12 or 12.5 even. So that's why having this information, you can already, having information about height changes, you can already change training for your swimmers. And that's important for their long-term development. If you look at the VO2 max changes, they're changing later, around 13 and a half, 14 years old male athletes are increasing in VO2 max. VO2 max is high intensity training than aerobic training. That's why VO2 max, or it's so-called mixed energy zone in swimming, athletes should start training a little bit later or increasing volumes in long-term training later. Boys around 13 and a half, 14 years old, and girls about 1.5 years earlier, because biological tendencies are the same, just girls maturing 1.5 years earlier. Oxygen debt and VO2 max, as you see here, for the male swimmers, how they change, very similar changes are. And the fastest change is around 13.7, 13.9 years old for male swimmers. These are again oxygen debt and VO2 max. They're mixed parameters of the mixed energy zone. And girls, again, the same graphs are, but they're improving later. Earlier than male athletes. Strength training between 16.3 and 17.8 strength on land or in the water improves accordingly. So that's why, again, if you improving and mature, your athletes maturing, don't rush with the strength training. Strength training should be done more towards the end of puberty, age 16, 17 for boys, or age 15, 16 for girls. That's where you can start working on strength. You start with girls 14.5, a little bit earlier, but don't do too fast, too soon. Okay. So what's in general duration of sensitive periods of development? Okay, this again data from swimming. Boys and girls can improve flexibility really well at younger age. It's a little bit difference between girls and boys. You see about 1.5 year difference. 7 to 13 for boys and 6 to 12 for girls. Then balance can be improved well as well, also at younger age, which is very important for swimming technique. If you have good balance, you can improve your swimming technique better as well and learn swimming technique. That's why age at 9 or even earlier, at 6 and 7, it's a good age to start swimming and building good technique at this age. So athletes can improve good technique. If you're missing this age, not improving good technique, as a result, your swimmers will not have good technique later on. Agility, 10 to 12 and 9 to 11, that's also relates to swimming technique as well. Endurance, 12 to 14 years old and 11 to 13 years old for boys and girls respectively. And that's when athletes, we need to increase volumes in aerobic swimming. And strength power, 15 to 17 for boys and 14 to 16 for girls. Again, very similar tendencies as a result of studies that we saw on previous slides. So that's why, based on that, we need to develop models of long-term training. How much athletes should swim, when they should increase aerobic, mixed, anaerobic, sprint training volumes, strength training volumes as well, and how that relates to their age and also biological maturation. So, and all this stuff we already developed online in our talent ID and development models. You can go and look at that. And actually, I will show you in a few minutes as well. So, because flexibility aerobic conditioning sensitive period of development is early, at age 11, 12 and for girls, and 12.5, 13.5 for boys. So that's when we need to increase volumes in this training. Flexibility is important for swimming as well. We need to maintain flexibility. So, and that matches also with the height, peak height velocity, as I told. That's why peak height velocity is very easy parameter that you can track. And as I told, we have also software online which allows you to enter height at what is height at different age, and software will determine when is the puberty and what you need to do and how to adjust your training depends on that. VO2 max, oxygen debt, which is a reflection of mixed energy zone in swimming, happens a little bit later, about 1 year later than aerobic conditioning improvement. Lactate peak, which is anaerobic training, strength, and some other parameters for anaerobic energy system, they increase rapidly from age 13 to 16 for girls and 14 to 17 for boys. Again, it's another year later than aerobic development. That's why this training volume curve should reflect the sensitive periods of development. For example, this is the model that we created for distance swimmers, male distance swimmers. They increase aerobic volumes, total volumes really fast, as you see here, excuse me, reaching 2,700 kilometers a year. That's for future elite level distance swimmers. And then volumes are going down a little bit, total volumes, up to age of peak performances, down 2,300 meters a year. But energy systems like high energy training volumes should continue to increase, as you see lower in the curves over there, which higher energy systems are mixed energy zone, anaerobic, and sprint energy zone as well. If you look at male sprinters, they reach not as high volumes in long-term training, but during biological maturation, between age 12 and 14 is the fastest rate of increase volumes, from 730 to 1,600 increase, because they need to develop good aerobic conditioning, even sprinters, for the future recovery better. And then at this, when recovering the better, they can improve better as well, because they can do more quality training in practices. And they should reach around 2,000 kilometers a year, not at age 17 or 18 as distance swimmers, but at age 16 earlier. And then volumes can gradually go lower to the rest of their career. And at peak performance age, which is 25 years old, sprinters should still swim about 1,700 kilometers a year. And energy zones in the graphs you see in other energy zones below reflect also similar tendencies, for example, mixed energy zone, the red curve over here, the highest peak volume reaches at age 17 and then drops down. But anaerobic and sprint volumes, they continue to increase through their career training up to the age of peak performances, age of 25. That's how athletes should train. And exactly the numbers of this for female swimmers, for sprinters, middle distance, distance swimmers, all these models are online, and they based on physiological backgrounds, such as sensitive periods of development, as well as based on practical information and what elite level swimmers swimming at different age. So you can see that also in our talent ID database, which definitely will help you also to improve. So I'm finishing my theoretical part over here. Let's look at some practical application. First, before going to question and answers, I want to see how this works in a talent ID database. Show you how this works. Okay, give me a second. I'll just share my screen with you. So you see the screen over here of Talent ID and Development Database, initial screen. And again, link to that is talentidd.org, where you can go and send me email So if you're interested to join this talent ID and development database, which is at well discounted price for Latin American countries and Pan American Aquatics as well members. Normally we're charging $5 a month per swimmer, but for you will be only $3 per month for swimmer. So that's why if you're interested, let me know. Coaches are for free. It's only for swimmers charges are $3 a month. So, and if federation's interested in that as well, I'm happy to work with you guys and give some also discount if the entire federation wants to use this talent ID and development database. So let's look what is inside. So I connect it like myself. Every coach will have their own connection. Swimmers will have their own connection also, credentials, login name and password, and then you can start using that. So let's see what is here. So there are many different things on the top over here. You see, athletes. When you click on the athletes, it populates your list of your athletes plus elite level athletes from United States, how they improve. So you can see that as well and compare your swimmers. Then training volumes. You can click over there and there are weekly averages of training volumes. You can enter your swimmers as well and you'll see also what kind of weekly training volumes your swimmers are doing. Then next one, swimming times. How progression of swimming times are, what times in various events. We'll look at that with you as well. Next, windows of performance progression. For example, we want to see, let's say 100 freestyle. How swimmers progressing to the time of 46.4, which is world record right here. So you see swimmers progress from age 11, time between 58.7, 73, and 110.3. That's a window at age 11 if you want to be at the elite level. And obviously not everyone will be there at the elite level. So, but that's not a big deal. You can set up your goals. You don't want to reach elite level, let's say, you want to reach, but you probably will be difficult to reach for everyone. Time of 46 seconds swimming 100 freestyle, but you can put, as I told, at age 20, 48 seconds or so, or 50 seconds. And you will see your path, what path you need to go to reach 50 seconds or 48 seconds, whatever age you want. This is for males. And here are times also what window is, where athletes' performances should be. And then for females, you see, for females, it's a larger window at the beginning. The swimmers can swim between 58 seconds, similar like boys at age 11, and relatively slow, only 122, and still reach elite level. World record is 51.71 over here. And you see, if you plot your swimmers as well, you'll see where they're going every year and every competition even. You can look how the results changing and what results they should have at every competition. So there are all distances and events, you see. Butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, individual medley, all the distances, female, male swimmers, and you can compare that. So then there are also long-term training volumes, as we discussed. For example, look at sprinter, just looked with you, male sprinter, peak volume, male sprinter should reach around 16 years old, 2,000 kilometers a year. Then volumes are going down, but intensities, especially anaerobic intensities and mixed sprint training volumes intensities, every year they increase. And that helps them to reach good performances at age of peak performances, or at this time for the age of 25 for male sprinters. And you see these are examples also that what kind of volumes sprinters need to swim every year. At age 10, 300 kilometers, and then rapidly increase and reaches the peak at age 16, 2,000 kilometers. And then volumes are going down. For females, they swimming more because they earlier matured. At age 10, 450 kilometers, and reaching 2,000 at age 15, and then earlier than men by 1 year. In fact, it's 1.5 years. And then gradually decrease up to age of 24, reaching 1,700 kilometers. It's same pattern, similar volumes, but females are earlier increasing in the volumes and intensities than males. And you have also same for middle distance swimmers. We have also the models how volumes are increasing. You see models for middle distance swimmers at age 17, they're reaching 2,400. Distance swimmers reaching even higher volumes, 2,700 at age 17, and then volumes are going down as well. But intensities, especially mixed energy zone and anaerobic, they continue to increase even for distance swimmers. Relative endurance. I mentioned to you, you can enter anytime. For example, we have swimmer who want to swim, let's say male swimmer, 100 freestyle. His best time, let's say 100 meters is 58 seconds. Okay. 50 meters, best time, let's see, maybe around 24 seconds or so. What that means? You enter results, click on Analyze, and software tells you that my swimmer has ratio 2.41, which is super high ratio relative to what elite level swimmers have. Elite level swimmers over 100 freestyle, they have ratio 218. And if my swimmer has 241, definitely my swimmer is too much sprint training in practices. We need to increase better endurance. And that's why software will recommend for you what kind of training your swimmers need to do. For example, here in swimming, sprinting against medium resistance stretch course or parachutes in the water. Okay, a little bit longer sets in sprinting, not just 25 with long rest interval, short rest interval, and do sets also with lower resistance over here, like a stretching course in the water. 8 to 12 repetitions of 20 or 30 seconds work instead of sprinting just 15 seconds or even shorter. Then short swimming sets, but still speed endurance working, such as 12 to 16 repetitions, 25 fast, 25 easy, with 20, 30 seconds rest, or 8 to 12 times 50 fast, 25 easy, with 30 to 40 seconds rest, or 4 to 6 50s on with 45 to 60 seconds rest. As you see, this training will lead to the reduced ratio between times, and hopefully swimmer can reach 218 instead of 241, which is way too high ratio. And obviously I entered just example over here. On land, the same thing. Swimmers should train on land with lower resistances, this type of swimmers who have too high ratio between times than necessary. And low resistances, such as 65 to 70% from one repetition maximum, or maximum on in the gym, on land, on strength. Then 5 to 6 repetitions at resistance of 70% from maximum, and doing sets also with repetitions 4 to 5 times, not just bench press, let's say once or twice, but you need to do more high repetitions. And then 6 to 8 repetitions at 65% from one repetition maximum. Total number of sets per practice, 4 to 5 as well. And body core balance, using exercises on unstable platforms such as Bosu ball, or even staying on one leg doing exercises, which is part of biomechanical research that we're developing as well. And hopefully we'll do some other webinars talking more about biomechanics in the future. In fact, I will be in Colombia and Medellin in May and doing coaches clinic over there. You're welcome to come and listen to my presentations. We'll have theoretical and practical sessions with you and your swimmers as well. So what would happen if you would enter slower time over 50? Let's say 26.5. Okay, that's a much better endurance if you swing 58, 100, and 26.5 best time over 50. So you click over here. Ratio is 218.9, exactly the same as ratio for elite level swimmers, 218.6. That's a perfect ratio. Your training is going well. You don't need to change anything in your training. Your balance between aerobic and anaerobic conditioning is good. And software still writes you what kind of recommendations should be in the sets, which are specifically designed for 100 freestyler swimmer, because this is 100 freestyle. But if you look 200 freestyle, for example, okay, longer distances, and you enter, let's say, times 200 times your swimmer swim, let's say 1 minute 58 seconds, and 100 time swimmer, let's say, swims 55 seconds. Okay, what that means, you click over here, and the ratio is 214. Best swimmers in the world, 216. Okay, so your swimmer has better ratio between times than elite level swimmers. So, and that tells the software and me as well, by looking at these numbers, that you need to improve power. And then again, there are recommendations to improve power in practices more. Higher resistances in the water, on land, weights higher relative to one repetition maximum. And you can do also longer rest interval in sets, more from a dive, sprint, and other stuff in order to increase power for this swimmer. Because the ratio between times are lower than for elite level swimmers. However, keep in mind, if your swimmer very young, let's say, my swimmer is only 12 years old, then you don't need to change too much training, because they have to have low ratio between times. In this case, 214 is good relative to 216 if your swimmers are young. But if they are already 16, 17 years old, then they should be closer to the ratio of elite level swimmers, which is in this case 2.167. Okay. All right, so let's look at some other things in the database. For example, how individual swimmers' performances are progressing. Let's look at Caleb Dressel, for example, how his performances have been changing over here. So I click over here, and you can access Caleb Dressel, any other swimmers' results also in this database online, top US swimmers as well. So this is his 100 butterfly, and you can enter whatever you want. 100 freestyle, 50 freestyle as well. His times you can enter over here. Look how your athletes are progressing. Let's look at 100 butterfly, which Dressel holds world record at 49.9 in 100 butterfly now. So if you look at his performance progression over here, this is the orange line over here. He was swimming at age 10, 119.5, and then he improved pretty rapidly. Okay, a little bit outside the window was then returned back inside the window. At age 17, he was 53.31, and then he reached world record with the time of, trying to see, actually, let's go below. We'll see his time over that progression. So he reached the world record in 2019 with 49.5, I believe, yeah. So that's his progression of the times over here. And you can enter also even what you want to do. Let's say at 31, I put 49.45 over here. That's a progression. So he could reach that, or at age 25, or whatever age you want. So let's look some younger swimmers so you can see better how the performances are progressing over here. This is one swimmer from one of the country that uses this intensively as well. So let's go 100 breaststroke times. So because she's a breaststroker. So if you look at 100 breaststroker here for swimmer, she was swimming not very fast at age 10. Probably didn't train too much. 143 was far away from these models of elite level swimmers. And then she improved really fast. At age 11, already 122, very close to elite level swimmers. That's an orange line again. And at age 13 or 14 and a half, she reached 113.1. So that's already pretty good improvements. And then we can put also progression. For example, I want the swimmer to swim at age 20. Okay, I wanted the swimmer to swim, let's say, 106.5. Let's enter 106.5 over here. And I also have competition. Let's say in May. In Medellin, she want to swim May 15th or so of this year, will competition, and software will tell me, or you in this case, if you'll be using the software, how fast she needs to swim in Medellin in order to be on the track at age 20 to reach 106.5. You click set over here, and software calculates, you see, for swimmer, then at age 20, in 27, she needs to swim 106.5. And here is competition in Medellin. Okay, she is going to be 17.9 years old. She needs to swim 108.11 to be on the track to reach 106.5 at age of 20 in 2027. So that's how you can also have goals for your swimmers, and also will know what kind of performances they need to swim every competition, because you can enter any competition date, and software will tell you what results should be at that date as well. So then there are options also to enter training volumes, seasons. See, here are various seasons that this swimmer was training. You can also look at this swimmer's training volumes, how much she was training over here. So even long-term training volumes as well, that's what she needs to do. And you can change that based on the age of swimmers as well. So training volumes for the swimmers every week over here, like weekly averages. Okay, like summarizing graph over here. And you can go inside the seasons and see every season how much she was training every season. See gradual increase from age 13 when she was training 10,000 meters per week up to 37,000 meters per week at age already, sorry, not age 13. This was age 10 probably, yeah. And then at the last season, she already at age 13.5, she already was training at 37,000 meters or 37 kilometers per week, and different numbers in different energy zones as well. Okay. So you also can look at the heart rates as well. What are heart rates? How heart rates are changing, and with speed, and analyze energy zones based on the heart rate. This is step test. Say 8 times 100 descending. Start with slow pace. Heart rate was at that age 140, at that speed 140, and reaches maximum heart rate around 168. Okay, and you see below is here also example from 140 to 168, swimming from 120 slow pace up to 105 maximum 100 pace. So, and once you have this graph, software will generate you the energy zones in different sets. For example, if you want to swim in mixed energy zone, which is mixed 2 or VO2 max, in US we call it EM3 energy zone. Excuse me. In this case, your times should be, if she swims 50s, your time should be between 35.3 and 36.2 in the swim set. If she wants to swim anaerobically set, she needs to swim faster than 35.3. If she wants to swim aerobic sets, 50s, she needs to swim between 36.9 and 37.5. So that's how you can have also times and heart rates in different energy zones, because heart rate aerobic for her would be 155. Or if it's mixed energy zone heart rate or VO2 max, 158, 161. So as you see here, also in this example as well. And also there's another method to analyze energy zones based on the time changes. So I'll just show you on other swimmer as well. Quickly, you can click quickly between your swimmers. You click on the energy zones like at times. You enter times over in practice from the push over 50, say 27 seconds, over 100, 63 seconds or 103, and 200, 209. And you click set, and then software generates your again energy zones in all energy zones, including sprint. Because heart rate, you cannot generate energy zones for sprint, since maximum heart rate is at VO2 max when anaerobic energy zone starts. But physiologically, you cannot generate heart rate use heart rate for sprinting, let's say SP3 or creatine phosphate, or even a high lactate energy zone. Heart rate is already at maximum at that time, but your swimmer still can swim faster than maximum heart rate. That's anaerobic energy zone. And again, here examples for this particular swimmer from all energy zones, from sprint to recovery. And again, if this swimmer needs to do sprint, let's say energy zone 25s, in this case, he should do 14.7 seconds or faster. If this swimmer wants to swim anaerobic 2, which is peak lactate zone, 25s would be between 14.7 and 15.69. If the swimmer wants SP1 or anaerobic development zone, should be between 15.69 and 16.82, and so on. Any distance, 100, 150, 200 repeats. Obviously, you cannot do sprint 200. That's why 200s start only with anaerobic sets and a relatively lower number of repetitions. And for this swimmer would be 223 or faster based on his times in practices, which are 27 seconds 50, 103 100, and 209 200. And also there is another interesting tool for you, changing of height. Remember I told you about that as well. So if you click over here, you enter height changes as entered for this swimmer. You see his height didn't change too much from age 10 to age 12. He was growing, but a rate of increase, which is red graph, so was always around 5.5 centimeters a year. Okay, he was 5.5 at age 10, 5.5 at age 11, and also was 5.5 at age 12 centimeters. Then at age 13, already 8 centimeters a year. That's where puberty started. Okay, and if your puberty started at age 13, which that means that you are 1 year later mature. Ideally, we don't want to measure just once a year height. We need to measure every 3, 4, or 6 months. And then if you're entering more often, software will detect puberty earlier as well. So therefore, you want to keep that in mind, that you're measuring height more often. You enter height over here, changes of the height, and software detects that you late matured. Because this particular swimmer is late matured, because average peak height velocity, when height increases at the fastest rate, should be at age 12. And for this swimmer is at age 13. What that means for his long-term training. We click on his long-term training volumes, and software tells that his long-term training volumes are shifted by 1 year to age 13. And he reaches peak volumes not at age of 17, as you see here, but at age 18. And that's 2,400 kilometers, as we saw already in the models. But for him particularly, it should happen at age 18. And then you have entire also model for his long-term development shifted 1 year later, because he is late mature. If you have early matured athletes, it should be shifted earlier. So again, depending on the height changes, if you are entering height often over there in database, as I told, ideally every 3, every 4 or 6 months, no more than 6 months. Because if you more than 6 months, you will detect only maybe after 1 year that, oh, puberty started. No, I want to detect earlier. So that's why you may enter height even every 2 months for your swimmers. So then software will detect your swimmer's puberty and tell what kind of training needs to be done from now on. So anyway, this is the presentation that I want to cover for you and show talent ID and development database. And as I mentioned during the presentation, PanAm Aquatics countries, they have discount. And if you want even more discount, so then normally if larger swim clubs, science, or entire federation, as we see multiple federations around the world, they're already signing for this talent ID and development database, and have access to the really unique information that you would not have that you don't have. You don't want just train without science. It's better train with science. And once you're developing your athletes with science, you'll be more successful. You will know exactly what kind of training your athletes need to do at different age, younger, older ones, girls, boys, sprinters, middle distance swimmers. You also know what is their relative endurance. You know what is their biological maturation based on the height change. And also you can analyze what kind of training your swimmers are doing relative to other swimmers as well, because software allows to store every week what kind of training you're doing. And again, all this information is available already. And if you need any help, go to talentidd.org website and send me an email from there. And then you will learn more. You will know more about this database. Anyway, so I'm going to stop my presentation over here, but I'm happy to answer your questions.
So if anyone has any questions, please type them into the question and answer. We'll give it another minute or so, but if there's no questions by then, we'll assume that there are no questions from anyone who attended.
Yeah, don't be shy to ask some questions. And even if you don't have questions now, again, go to talentidd.org and you can type questions for me over there. Don't see questions.
No, I don't see any questions. So I guess with that, we will wrap up this webinar. Thank you very much, Dr. G, for your, oh, just as I started, a question pops up.
Okay, no worries.
Give me a second, please, to translate it. Still working on it.
Okay.
So thank you, Marissa. So when we're talking about 11-year-olds, 11-year-old girls seem to have an advantage over boys. That imply that at the age of 11, a 11-year-old girl is better than an 11-year-old boy.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And since they are improving more earlier, because biological maturation is about 1.5 years earlier, so that helps athletes, younger girls, to swim even faster than younger boys. It's not always faster, but they're improving more. And that's why training, biologically, the older training should be different as well. I see Dr. Miller is asking talent ID and development website address. So it is talentidd.org. Again, talentidd.org. IDD means ID and development. Talentidd.org.
Okay, thank you. And we got more questions as you were answering that. So challenge ID suggests the work volume, and when these are entered into the coach software.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct, Clint. Clint actually using our another software, which is eCoach, for seasonal training and weekly daily planning design. So yes, Clint, you can use that volumes from the Talent IDD to enter in the seasonal planning for your software. So, but keep in mind that Talent IDD volumes are annual volumes for entire year. So that's why if you have seasonal plan, let's say 20 weeks or so, that's about one third, probably a little bit more than one third of the year. So you need to proportionally less enter not entire year volumes for one season, but depending on duration of the season.
All right, thank you for that. And then the last question is asking to share your email address again. Is it okay if I put that in the chat?
Yeah, you can put in chat. I think I
Perfect.
open chat.
That's okay. I have your email. I'm putting it in the chat.
Yeah, let's open the chat.
Oh, I just put it in. You're good.
Oh, you put already. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions?
All these are great questions. So feel free to ask more.
All right. I think that was all of the questions. So thank you for those. They were good. Again, so now for real, thank you for your time today, Dr. G. It was some really informative presentation and information you gave to everyone today. So hopefully everyone learned something. Thank you for all of your support and everything you do for swimming across the Americas. And we hope to see everyone again at another webinar. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Great weekend. And happy International Women's Day for women. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you and goodbye.